ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. Today we will consider two important Vishvedeva Suktas from Prajapati Vaishwamitra. Prajapati Vachya Va Drushtub Chanda Imam Mahe Vidathyaya Shusham Imam Mahe Vidathyaya Shusham 3.54.1. For this great knowledge sacrifice, the sacrificers are chanting this song of praise again and again for the worship-worthy Agni. May that Agni Atma listen to it, along with his army of flames, which is capable of combating the enemies. May he listen to us with other luminous souls. Luminous souls could be enlightened souls or other sources of light such as the sun, the stars, etc. Otherwise, overall meaning of the work should be quite clear. Figure 3.54.2. Mahi Mahe Dive Archa. Three point 54.2. Mahe Dive Archa. O invoker, pay respect to the great space and earth by means of auspicious hymns. My desire is on the move, seeking knowledge of the soul, the self. Enlightened beings, along with other attendants, find delight. In those hymns, in knowledge sacrifices. Seer of the Sukta is a seeker of truth. The self, he is asking the sacrificer to think about nature from the space through earth and the origin of the universe. Enlightened souls will be glad to hear his views on the matter. The seer of the Sukta may be telling this to himself. 3.54.3. Yuvarrutam rodasi satyamastu. O the space and earth, your laws of nature, Rutam, are irrevocable indeed. May they prevail on us for our great prosperity. O soul of Agni, this is our respectful salutation to the space and the earth. With industriousness, we shall praise them and proceed to obtain the good jal. The space and earth, with all the things contained within, constitute nature or universe. They enforce the laws of nature. Following these laws, let human beings prosper on this earth. By meditating on nature, one can arrive at its source, which is the good jewel mentioned here. 3.54.4. Uto hivam purvya. O the space and earth, you are sustainers of Ruta. Ancient seekers of truth knew you from all sides. Therefore, O earth, the present day brave leaders of men who are highly learned and engage in the battle of acquisition of knowledge honor you and the space with these hymns. Based on the knowledge handed down to us by the ancient sages, the present knowledge sacrificers invoke nature from space through earth with new hymns. This is the gist of the Ruk. As mentioned earlier, the seer is seeking the truth about nature. .5 Ko adha veda ka iha pra. Who knows the self truly? Who is here to preach it? What is the path that leads to enlightenment? As answers to these questions, some see the manifested gross objects as true, and others see truth hidden in the laws of the unmanifested self. Here, he is asking these questions to his co-sacrificers, and he answers them himself. Some believe in the reality of this universe made of gross matter. Others see the truth lying hidden behind Ruta, or truth is true, that is the base of manifestation of nature. Basic changing characteristics of the 5 elements from the space to earth constitute the irrevocable eternal laws of nature, Ruda. Kavir Nrjaksha Abhi Srimachasta 3.54.6. The wise one, who is the beholder of all men, illuminates the space and earth which are born from Ruta, giving joy to all. He illumines especially the living world with his rays of spiritual light. By taking similar actions, working unitedly, the space and earth, like two birds, provide shelters for all diverse objects in this universe. The wise one could be Atmiya Bhavamanasoma, the moving witnessing self. Rays of quantum of spiritual energy, spiritual light of the self bestows existence to all forms of matter, from the most abstract space to the grossest form, the earth. Between them they provide accommodation for all material objects made out of the 5 basic forms: the space, air, energy, water and earth. 3.54.7 Samanya Viyude Dure Ante, similar in some respect but united and disjointed, near and far, stable and firmly established like two young vigilant sisters. The space and earth came to be called by twin names or combined names like Rodasi. This Ruk may not need much explanation except for the fact that earth itself is one of the material forms within the space. 3.54.8 Vishvedede Janima Sam Vivikto. Upholding the self-luminous objects, the space and the earth keep all objects that are born from matter separately in their respective places without deviating from their paths. Earth, though moving, is firm and acts as a home for all living beings. All moving and stationary creatures rest upon their base, whether they are animals, birds or plants, etc. The space and earth between them provide dwelling places for all forms made of matter, luminous as well as non-luminous, while earth serves as a home for all living creatures. This is one of their common attribute. 3.54.9 Sana Puranam. I shall always remember him who is the great Father, Mother, and Sustainer of this universe, who is ancient and eternal, and to whom we owe our birth, and also that great famous path leading to him, wherein are established the devout enlightened beings inside their respective vehicles. This is an interesting and informative rik which can be explained as follows. Birthlessness alone is eternal truth. Non-comprehension of truth is ignorance. From ignorance, Purusha, Father, and Prakriti, Mother Aditi, came into being. Prakriti Mata or Aditi gives birth to mental creations or sons who are called Adityas and who are personifications of certain aspects of nature. The gross universe is thought of as being maintained by the Adityas. The sustainer of universe is the manifested self Indra. The great path from gross universe to birthless Brahman is well known to enlightened souls as it is conceived of by them only. Created gross objects, mentally created subtle objects, Purusha and Aditi, finally birthless Brahman. 3.54.10 Imam stomam rodasi pra. Oh, the space and earth, I shall proclaim this praiseworthy hymn. May Mitra, Varuna, and the sons of Mother Aditi, who have truth within themselves, who have tongues like flames of fire, who are resplendent, are youthful, wise, and are renowned. May you all hear this prayer of mine. Seer of the Sukta is telling the gross universe to hear this hymn, describing it. May the imaginary world of Adityas hear this hymn as it talks about the sons of Aditi also. Second half of the rik is devoted to virtues attributed to Adityas. 3.54.11 Hiranyavani Savita Sujihvas. Savita, the soul of the sun, who has golden rays as hands and is honey-tongued, gives us knowledge in 3 sessions of the knowledge sacrificed daily. O Savita, please accept the praises of enlightened persons. Please grant us all our noble desires. Here, Savita can be considered as soul of the sun or gross energy, as he is always associated with the sun. The soul of gross energy should be the self, because all individual selves finally end up in it. Noble desire should be to attain self-knowledge. Rest is simple enough to understand. 3.54.12 Sukrit Subhani Svang Ridava, that resplendent Tvashta, creator of living beings, who is a performer of noble deeds, is having good hands, is prosperous and is propagator of Rita, upholds for us all these things necessary for our protection. May the skillful Adityas make us joyful by nourishing our knowledge sacrifice like the clouds high up in the sky. Here Tvashta, the creator of living organisms, could be Purusha, representing the self for the reason given under the previous rik. Part of the rik deals with attributes of that creator. No further clarification may be necessary on this rug. 3.54.13 Vidyutratha Maruta. Maruta having lightning driven chariots which possess various movements. They are born from Rita. They have acquired much knowledge and are good sacrificers, and they are strong. May they give us good wealth along with good progeny. May Saraswati, the deity of learning, hear this hymn. Maruts or air manifests as per Rita. Wind or air seems to move with the cloud in the atmosphere as though carried or driven by lightning, a source of energy. Really, air moves because of the sun's heat. Differential heating of the atmosphere causes air movement or wind movement. Air maintains the fire inside the body of sacrificers and also the sacrificial fire. 3.54.14 Vishnum Stomasa Purudamsa. The praisers who do good deeds for prosperity in all knowledge sacrifices approach the all-pervading Vishnu, remover of all miseries. The old mothers and young women do not transgress the commands of that Vishnu who pervades all worlds. It may be noted here that Vishnu represents the self in this rug. Since the self alone is pervading all forms, gross like bodies of living beings and subtle like those of mentally conceived beings such as Vishnu, Tvashta, Indra, etc. This is substantiated by 1.164.46 Rug. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. 3.54.15 Indra Vishwair Viryaye. Blessed with all energies, Indra by his greatness filled the space and the earth. He is the destroyer of enemy fortress and has a strong army. Upholding us and our cattle, he supports us well. Indra stands for the manifested self. With that comment, implied meaning of this rug should become easily understandable. 3.54.16 Nasatya me Pidara Bandhuprucha. We protect the honor and fame of that beautiful name Ashwins, who are of similar nature and function and are like my parents. O Ashwins, may you give the best wealth of all wealths by irreproachable noble action. Please safeguard our donations. It has been mentioned earlier that Ashwins can be treated as the twin Jivatma and Paramatma. This rug can be understood on that basis. The best wealth of all wealths automatically means spiritual light of the self. 3.54.17 Mahattadva Kavayas Charunama. wise sages, great is your name, Rubhus, which indicates that you are all enlightened men. O Indra, invoked by many, along with the beloved wise men, Rubhus, who are dear to you, please protect this our intellect in order to discriminate between truth and unreality. 3.54.18 Adyamano Aditir Yetniyaso. O sacrificers, may Adyama, dispenser of justice, and Aditi, Mother Nature, enable us to observe those unimpaired laws of Varuna, the all-pervading one. May those two keep us off the path which deprives us of good progeny. May the land where we live have plenty of cattle and good progeny. Dispenser of justice is one of the sons of Mother Nature, Aditi, conceived of by enlightened souls. So also is Varuna. Ruta, laws of nature are the commands of Prakriti or Purusha, representative of the self. All born forms obey these laws or are bound to exhibit their natural attributes as the self serves as the base for all manifestations of nature. Rita is the effect and Satya is the cause. 154.19 Devanam Duda Purudha. May the messenger of the self Agni, Atma, who are sinless, who is established in many places, tell us about the truth and unreality. May the earth, the vast space with infinite stars, the sun, the atmosphere and water or air, descend to our words of praise. Overall meaning of the lecture should be perfectly clear. We go to 20th Sukta, 3.54.20. Srinmantu no Vrushana Parvadaso. May those who are showerers of happiness like the clouds and firm like mountains listen to us and be delighted by this hymn. May Aditi, Mother Nature, with her sons, listen to this. May Maruth bestow auspicious prosperity on us. 3.54.21 Sada Sugha Pidumang Astu Pantha. O Agni, may our path be easy for going and abounding in good food or knowledge. O enlightened beings, please make use of these sweet herbs properly. O Atmiya Agni, may you not suffer in my friendship. May my excellent wealth be yours. I aspire for a dwelling abounding with riches and food. Seer of the Sukta is honoring all shining beings who are mental conceptions of enlightened sages. They conceived of these entities as the guardians of Ruta. Last stroke in the Sukta. 3.54.22. Swadasvahavya Samisho Didehi. O Agni Atma, please taste these oblations of food or knowledge which are being offered with our praises. May food or knowledge be turned towards us. May you be victorious in battles, overcoming all your enemies, being ever cheerful and favorably inclined towards us. Please illuminate us on all days. In general, the last few ruks are simple and straightforward prayers which are easily comprehensible. They may be referring to knowledge sacrifice, in which case oblations are hymns, and food may be logically mean food for the mind and food for the gross body. Vishwamitra identifies himself with Prajapati in this Suktam and also in the next two Sukta 55 and 56. We will take up now Suktam 55. Prajapati Vaishwamitra Prajapati Vacha Vaha Rishi Devata Vishwadeva Chandas Trushto. This is a very important Suktam. Every rik in this Suktam ends with the same statement. It logically follows that seer of the Sukta wants to impress this point on the listeners, or none should miss it at any cost. This never to be missed point is this: the Supreme Spirit that the enlightened source realized is one only, Egam Sat. The rest are all elaborations for the purpose of instruction. This point is borne in mind while interpreting the Sukta. Each seeker of knowledge may comprehend the meaning of the ruks depending on the level of one's ignorance, or as characterized by his I feeling, aham bhava. To elaborate this point further, before this material universe came into being, there must have been a permanent state in which no birth has taken place as yet, because birth is indicative of change or impermanency. This is the birthless Brahman realized by the enlightened source. Interestingly, this universe is thought of or imagined to be born from that birthless state as follows. Any birth from birthless state is really impossible. However, any doubt on this point is ignorance, which is the cause of the appearance of this universe. As its birth from the birthless state is impossible, such a birth is said to be unreal or a product of ignorance, which is not real, as it is lack of knowledge. In short, birth of matter, gross or abstract, is from unreal ignorance of the birthless Brahman, which is truth, Egam Sat. We go to this 3.55.1. Ushasa Purva Atha. Before the appearance of dawns or time, the great imperishable Mahat Tattva came into being on the face of the earth. The one great divine Supreme Spirit presents the laws and vows of enlightened and semi-enlightened beings or souls. Before the dawn, which represents time, birth of time, appeared, birthless Brahman alone was there, which is beyond the space and time. It became the base of manifestation of the great principle behind the laws and vows arrived at by the enlightened sages. That great shining spirit, Paramatma, is one only. Alternately, Any changing phenomenon can be expressed with reference to a steady state base only. Mo shruno atra juhuranta 3.55.2. O spiritual Agni, enlightened beings present here now do not harm us, nor our ancient forefathers who knew what is to be attained, because within the minds of these ancient enlightened souls they see only that truly one great shining spirit of the enlightened beings. The present or past enlightened souls do not harm the sacrificers because they have realized the self or attained oneness of the self and with the self. 3.55.3. Vime purutra patayanti kama. O spiritual Agni, my manifested desires are flying in various directions. I seek light from the deeds of ancient sages. When the fire of knowledge is kindled, I shall proclaim the truth. The great shining spirit of the enlightened beings is one only. The meaning of the slide should be clear without any further explanation. 355.4. Samano Raja Vibhrita Purutra. The great shining spirit of the enlightened beings is one only. That universal Lord is upheld in many ways, sleeping in inert forms with his spiritual rays joined to them, while in other one, nature or prakriti, upholds the inert forms and sustains them like their mother. This can be explained as follows. The one self bestows existence to all forms and pervades living bodies, giving them consciousness and feeling of I, aham bhava. This body-attached consciousness, Jivatma, protects the living bodies and sustains their activities, while the one moving witnessing self stays as a witness of all actions. Akshit Purva Swapara 3.55.5. The great shining spirit of the enlightened beings is one only. It dwells in forms that are old, that are yet to be born, forms that are newly born, and that are grown up young forms. It dwells in forms that are lifeless, but is present inside all forms. All pervasive character of Atma, the one self, is brought out in this work. It pervades all forms irrespective of time and space, or it is beyond space and time. This point is being elaborated in the following rugs. 3.55.6. Shayu Parastadatha No. Shayu Parastadatha No. 3.55.6. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. On account of it, the sun, having two mothers existing in a distant place, moves alone like a child without a fetter. These are the commands of the friend of all living beings and the king of the universe. Sun stands for energy which has two sources, the space and earth or atmosphere. The sun only appears to move freely with respect to an observer on the earth. Energy manifests because of ignorance of the self. Indra is the friend of all living creatures. Being present in their bodies, The manifested self is the Lord of the universe. Sage Vishwamitra is identifying himself with Indra here. 3.55.7 Dvimata hota vidatheshu samrat. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. On account of it, the sun having two mothers, shining like a sacrificer in a knowledge sacrifice, moves at the extremity of the space. It creates a base for dwelling. Sweet-tongued men glorify it with sweet speeches. For the reason mentioned above, under the previous record, the self provides a dwelling for all material forms. Energy of the sun is also caused by it. Wise men praise or preach the knowledge of the self through Vedic hymns. Shuraseva Yudhyato. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. In comparison to this intimate one, abiding inside all, this immense universe is seen to be insignificant, like a coward compared to a brave fighter. A wise man moves about, upholding that bestower of consciousness in his heart. The manifested material universe stands no comparison to the unmanifested self, since the former is made of matter and is ever changing. That Supreme Self resides in the bodies of all living creatures as the witnessing self. A wise man with his mind's eye or inward turned eye sees that witnessing self residing in his heart space, bestowing consciousness on him. 3.55.9 Ni Veveti Palito Duta. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. Protected by it, its messenger, personified energy, abides in all plants. That eminent one, spiritual Agni, with his gross rays moves in the space. He upholds various forms. He instructs us who are learned, especially. Manifestation of energy, Agni, in different material forms is dealt with here. He is present in growing plants. He is present in all shining, lifeless celestial bodies. He is there in living creatures. He reveals knowledge of the self to intelligent persons. 3.55.10 Vishnu Gopa Paramam Padipatha. That great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. He, Agni Atma, or it, is all pervading like Vishnu and is the protector of all. He upholds the desirable eternal abodes, the space, atmosphere and the earth, and protects the supreme path. That soul of Agni, or it, knows thoroughly all the words. First part of the Ruk is self-explanatory. The supreme path, as explained earlier, must be gross matter, subtle matter, perceiver eye, and supreme truth. 3.55.11 Nana Chakrase Yamya. That great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. On account of him or it, the twins day and night create various forms. One of the twins is dark and the other bright. Of the two sisters, the dawn shines bright and night is dark in complexion. By implication, day and night may stand for knowledge and ignorance respectively. this makes no difference to the meaning of the rig. In fact, this affords an alternate meaning or explanation to the rig. 3.55.12 Mata Chayatra Duhita Chadhenu. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. Ignorance or Mahamaya is the mother and Prakriti is the daughter. They are yielders of sap like the milk yielding cows. They cause each other to drink. I glorify that one who is established in the assembly of Vruta. Nature or Prakriti is a product of ignorance about birthless Brahman. One feeds on the other. Ignorance is the cause of seeing birth in birthless self. As far as the seer is concerned, seer of the Sukta is concerned, he perceives this ignorance associated with the self which is established in Vruta. Anyasyavat samrihati mimaya. 3.55.13 That great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. It causes one, the space or energy of the sun, to lick the calf, namely water, of the earth and to uphold it in the clouds. The earth is then sprinkled with the water of righteousness. Manifestation of water by rain or the so-called water cycle is described here. The sun evaporates water existing on the surface of the earth. This water vapor rises up in the atmosphere as clouds. As it moves up, it gets cooled. When cooled sufficiently, it gets condensed, producing rainwater. This is being referred to here. Water cannot exist in vapor form above a certain altitude from Earth's surface within the troposphere. Padyavaste Pururuva 55.14 That great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. With one foot, he causes to cover the earth with diverse forms. He establishes himself above, licking or eliminating the three worlds. He sustains them. Being wise, I shall move about in the abode of Vruta. This talks about the creation of the universe as conceived by the wise sages. The same concept is described by most of them. Perhaps the most famous description of the concept is the one given in Purusha Sukta 10.90. Padosya vishwa bhutani tripadasya amritam divi tripadurva, etc. Vadeva nihite dasme anta 3.55.15 That great shining spirit of the enlightened beings is one only. The perishable day and night, which are like his two legs, are controlled by him. One of them, night, is hidden, while the other, day, becomes illumined. They follow a common path, pervading all equally. In this rig also, day and night can be thought of as knowledge and ignorance respectively. This may reveal the implied meaning of the rig. 3.55.16 Thenavo Dhunayanta. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. The speeches about him are not childish, are unmilked, are fulfillers of noble desires, and are energetic. They are ever new and yield milk of knowledge. These hymns, which talk about the self, lead one to knowledge of the self. Realization of the self is the noble desire of all knowledge seekers or sacrificers. Next is 3.55.17. Yadanyāsu vrishabho roravīti. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. That mighty one Indra emits or transmits sound Om and puts the seed or luster in another. He is the master of darkness or ignorance. He is prosperous. He is the Lord of the universe. The manifested self causes the creation of thunder in the atmosphere where air becomes a medium for transmission of sound. He bestows energy on the sun in the space, or manifestation of energy and air are being attributed to the manifested self in this look. Manifested self Indra is covered with a cloak of unreality or ignorance of Atma. That 55.18. Virasyanu Swashyam Janasa. That great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. O man, we shall proclaim about the possession of the good horses or spiritual light rays of the hero loudly. Enlightened persons come to know of his horses or spiritual light rays very quickly. Here, horses imply rays of spiritual light associated with the self, possessed by Indra. Enlightened persons know or see with their mind's eye or inward turned eye these spiritual rays which cause their own existence. 3.55.19. Devastvashta Savita. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. He is Savita, the soul of the sun, is the illuminator of all forms and is resplendent. He nourishes all his subjects that are born by his rays of spiritual light. All the worlds are his creations only. As it is, meaning of the look should be perfectly clear. Savita represents the self here. 3.55.20. Mahi Samairachamva. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. He, Indra, impels the vast space and the earth and fills them with all manifested material forms. These two are pervaded by his rays of spiritual light. I hear constantly about the glory of that hero only. Manifested self is the cause of manifestation of matter from space to earth, and also all forms made up of these five basic forms containing within the two, space and earth. Knowledge sacrificers preach about Indra, the manifested self, regularly through these Vedic hymns. 3.55.21. Imam Jana Prithivim. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. He, Indra, is the upholder of the universe. Indra is our Lord who dwells in this earth like a friend. It is like an army of brave warriors sitting at home or behind a shelter. First part, Ruk, needs no explanation. The last part is indicative of the fact that the self is like a witness and not a performer, like an army stationed in their barracks ready to fight but not really fighting. Jivatma does the fighting, or is the performer and experiencer of fruits of actions. Last trick in the sutta is 3.55.22. Nishrid Varishta. Nishrid Varista. Oshadhir Udavo. Nishrid Varista. Oshadhir Udavo. The great shining spirit of enlightened beings is one only. Indra and the plants on the earth, etc., are His who is auspicious. Also, water or air and the earth upholds His or its wealth only. May we, His or its friends, become partakers of His or its wealth. This restates that the manifested forms of matter in the universe belong to or superimposed on the self. As friends of the self that resides in their bodies, or as persons identified with the self, let the enlightened sages partake the wealth that really belongs to it. A seeker of the real meaning of the Vedas should not miss the significance of repeating this truth, oneness of the shining spirit, Paramatma, by the seer 22 times in the sutta. The seer realizes the truth to be oneness of the self. All other things described in the different rigs in the sutta are nothing but manifestations superimposed on that one self. Is it not obvious that sage Prajapati wants to convey by this sutta is this: ignorance causes the appearance and disappearance of objects in the space all the time. That is the truth knowledge. Really, there is no perceiving mind, nor perceived objects, and so no space and no time. Each mind imagines its own independent existence and perceives its own universe. Realizing that truth, it attains that mindless, birthless state. In the sutta, Vishwamitra identifies himself with Prajapati, Lord of all born beings. We conclude today's discussion here. Viramastavat